Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to my long version of videos. I have a shorter version, as you know. If you've been following my channel, you'll know that I published a couple of very short videos. And I did that because I had to find a way to deliver more content to you. And so I'm not taking anything away from this channel. I'm simply adding a little bit more. So you're still going to get the long version videos where I get to chat with you face to face and you get to see my cat and learn a little bit about what's happening in my life. Now, I know some of you probably don't care and you just want to see the tutorials. That's fine too. But I know there's a lot of you that enjoy that connection, that want to see me face to face and learn about what I've been up to. And I'm going to continue to do that as I always have since the beginning of this channel. So please don't panic, okay? Because I'm still going to deliver the same content. I'm just adding a little bit more. So anyway, guys, I'm so glad you stopped by because we have a very beautiful necklace to make today. It's an asymmetrical design and I'm going to be using the beads that came in the Sam's bead box for the month of August. Now, I know a lot of you don't subscribe to that box. That's okay. You can still make this necklace. You're just going to have to find similar beads. And I'll list all of the materials down below in the description section of this video. If you'll scroll down, you'll see it. And don't forget that I always model my necklaces at the end of the video, so stick around for that. And by the way, if you're not familiar with Sam's bead box, I'll leave some information down below along with a link to the website in case you're interested. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. And here we have Sam's bead box for the month of August 2023. The name of the box is Coffee Lovers. Let's go ahead and select the beads. I did put the packets on top to make it easier. So what inspired this necklace today was this gorgeous focal bead. It's a dragonfly shield focal and it has a striped effect, as you can see, and a dragonfly design with a copper wash. It measures 20 by 26 millimeters. And when I saw these tablecut beads, I knew I had to use them. These coordinate really well with that focal because of the stripes. These are tablecut rectangle beads and the glass has the same striped effect, but it's a light pink color and it does say Crystal Picasso. I'm not sure why it's named Crystal Picasso because I don't really see a Picasso finish. In any case, I love these beads. They measure 8 by 12 millimeters. I'm also going to use two of the beads in this packet. These two, the kiwi beads. They're called Tablecut Kiwis. They measure 10.5 by 13.5 millimeters. And of course, I have to use these coffee bean beads, I should say. These measure 8 by 10 millimeters. Aren't these cute? They're so cute. I love these. And last but not least, I want to use these beautiful gemstones. These are called Hessonite garnets, and they're faceted rounds, and they're 4 millimeters in size. And as you can see, they do have a gradient effect. So some of them are lighter and some of them are darker. These are so pretty. I love these. And that's it from this box. Here are some additional items from my stash. I have 20 gauge wire and 22 gauge wire, and I have some chain here. Both of these are in an antique copper color, as you can see. I'm going to be using the 22 gauge wire on the Garnet gemstones. 4 millimeter gemstones like that usually have small holes. And this chain looks like paperclip chain, but on the packet it actually says long and short chain. Let me show you why. As you can see, we have some longer links and some shorter links. The longer links do look like paperclip links, and I think they measure 9 by 4 millimeters. And the shorter ones are round, and they measure 4 millimeters in size. But you can use any kind of chain. It doesn't have to be this kind of chain. In addition to these items, I'm going to be using some jump rings and a lobster clasp as well, but I'll pull those out later on when we get ready to use them. So now that we've gone over the materials, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by building some beaded components, and these are the beads that we're going to be using. And I'm going to use 20 gauge wire on all of these. And like I said before, the garnets probably will have the 22 gauge wire, which is why I don't have them here just yet. But I wanted to give you a little tip. As you can see, I have my wire set up. And the length of each piece is cut depending on the size of the beads. So for example, these are smaller beads, so this piece of wire is shorter, and this one's the longest one, as you can see. Now sometimes when I'm building beaded components, I work directly from the spool, or I cut myself a long piece of wire. But today I'm going to show you a slightly different method. I'm going to demonstrate with one of these beads. Let me just move these up a little bit. So basically what you want to do is cut a piece of wire that's 1 inch longer than the bead you have. Here's my wire and it's on the spool. Let me straighten it out a little bit. And you would lay it down like this and eyeball where an inch is. So this is about an inch right there. And then you would simply come in here and cut your wire at this end of the bead. So that when you do your loops, you have 1/2 inch of wire at each end. And this is just one way to do it. There are many other ways. Of course, you don't have to be as precise, but if you're interested in minimizing how much wire you waste, this is a good method. So let's go ahead and build a beaded component. I'm going to use my flat nose pliers and I'm going to kink my wire at about 1/2 inch down. And now using round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the wire so that it's flush. You don't want it sticking out. And I'm going to form a loop. Just like that. Let me load the bead. And now using flat nose pliers again, I'm going to grab the wire right where the bead is, line up the bottom loop, kink it. Now I am going to trim my wire because I actually cut myself just a little bit longer than 1 inch. That's what happens when you eyeball things. I don't always get it right, but at least I'm not wasting too much wire. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab the wire right at the end like that. Make sure it's flush because that's how you get a nice round loop, and then loop it. And there you go, it's as simple as that. Let me do one more with you. I'll do this big one. Once again, I'm going to grab the wire 1/2 inch down, kink it, grab the end with my round nose pliers, make sure it's flush, loop it, load the bead. And actually, this wire is not going to go through this bead. Let me try reaming it. This is a bead reamer, by the way, guys. It's a manual one. They do sell electric versions or battery-powered versions. I don't use them often, but once in a while I do have to use them. And you want to do it gently because you don't want to crack that bead. Let me see if it'll go through now. And it doesn't look like it will. So I'm going to save this one. And I'm going to use 22 gauge wire on that one. Sometimes you don't know until you actually go to work with the beads. Here's my 22 gauge wire. This is a very long piece because I'm going to do some wrap loops. Whenever I use anything thinner than 20 gauge, I always do wrap loops. Simple loops don't hold up very well with thinner gauges. So now I'm going to grab the wire a little bit further down, about 1 inch down, maybe a little bit more. Kink it. I'm going to slide the wire down the barrel like this, so I can get a nice big loop. Wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap that tail to the back. When I do wrap loops, I like to grab the loop with some skinny pliers. These pliers have a very thin tip, and now I'm going to grab the end and do some wraps. I usually only do 2 wraps, but you can certainly do more than that. And now I have to cut off the excess. And tuck in any sharp end. Let me straighten my wire a little bit. The wire will go through the bead a lot easier if it's nice and straight. Let's see if it'll work now. As you can see, it went through just fine. So now I'm going to grab the wire right where the bead is, kink it, switch to this part of the wire, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, grab the loop, grab the tail, and do some wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little end, line up my loops. You want to make sure they're facing the same direction. And this one's done. So I'm going to continue doing all of these beads. I'm going to do simple loops for these. And to save time, I'll do it off camera, and then we'll come back and do the garnets. I'm back. As you can see, I built all the beaded components, and I've arranged them the way I want them. They're not connected yet. I'll connect them in just a second. But as you can see, I have 6 of the coffee bean beads and 5 of the rectangle beads, and I'm alternating between a coffee bean bead and a rectangle bead. I've also distributed the colors as evenly as I could. So anyway, now I'm going to connect all of these. I'm not going to connect this big one just yet. I'm going to save that till later. And this part's really easy. I'm simply going to open up this loop, connect the next component, close up the loop, and now I'm going to open up this one, connect the next one, and close it up. And that's all there is to it. So let me connect the rest. So here they are, all connected now. Let me measure the strand. It measures about 8 3/4. So now we're going to work with the garnet beads. Let me go get them. Here are just a few garnet beads. We're not going to need too many. So let me show you what we're going to do. And by the way, these pieces of wire are 2.5 inches long. And the reason they're that long is because we're going to be doing some wrap loops. So I'm going to grab the wire somewhere in the middle, kink it, switch to this part of the wire, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue wrapping that tail to the back, and now I'm going to do a wrap loop. So I'm going to grab the loop with my skinny pliers, grab the tail, and do a couple of wraps. And by the way, this is the 22 gauge wire. .20 gauge wire won't fit through those beads. So now I'm going to cut off the excess. And tuck in the little sharp end. And now I'm going to load a bead. I'm going to grab it with my round nose pliers, right where the bead is, line up the bottom loop, kink it, switch to this part of the wire, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, and I'm going to do some wraps again. So I'm going to grab the loop, grab the tail, and do my wraps. Snip off the excess. Tuck in the little sharp end. And there's one beaded component. So now I'm going to link another one. And once again, I'm grabbing the wire halfway down, a little bit above midpoint, I would say. Kink it. Switch to this part of the wire. Wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back. This time I'm going to open up the loop and I'm going to insert the closed loop of this component into the loop that I just created. Just like that. So now I'm going to grab that loop with my skinny pliers, grab the tail, and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess, tuck in the little sharp end, load another bead, Grab the wire again by the bead, line up the bottom loop, kink it, switch to this part of the wire, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back, grab the loop with my skinny pliers, grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. Tuck in the little sharp end. And that's all there is to it. So now I'm going to continue linking these beads until I get a length that's about 2 inches or so. And I think I'm going to build 2 of them. So 2 strands, 2 inches each. I'm going to do it off camera to save time. So I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I built my 2 little strands. Each one measures 2 inches. Now yours may turn out a little bit different depending on how big your loops are. So that's something you're going to have to figure out. But as you can see, I have my focal bead and I have the beaded strand, and I also have a piece of chain. This piece of chain measures 12 inches. Now this necklace is an asymmetrical necklace, but even though it's asymmetrical, the beads are going to be pretty balanced. We're going to have this one on one side at the top of these 2 strands, and then at this end we're going to have these 2 pieces of beaded chain. And as I was building these, I made a little bit of a design change. I'm going to add 2 focal beads at this end as well, and I've already built them. Here's one of them. This bead is from my own stash. It's just a copper coin bead. As you can see, it has a really pretty design, and it's pretty flat. I think it measures about 12 millimeters across. And here's the other bead that I'm going to add. Both of these came from my stash. Let me show you this one. It's kind of like a very wide spacer bead, and I did add a seed bead at each end because the holes are rather large. And I believe that one measures 8 millimeters across. And as you can see, I did simple loops on both of these using 20 gauge wire. Now to connect all of these pieces, I'm going to use some jump rings. I have 2 5mm jump rings here. They're in an antique copper color. Now one thing I did want to talk about are the loops on those strands. You have to start and end with a loop that sits vertically or perpendicular to your mat. And I've already checked this strand, and both of these components have loops that are vertical or perpendicular to my mat. Now I did have to make a little change with this one. Let me show you. If you'll notice, the component on my left here has loops that are vertical or perpendicular to my mat. The next one's horizontal. This next one's vertical. And this one has one loop that's horizontal and the other one that's vertical. I had to make that little change because, like I said, whatever you connect to at the end has to have a loop that's vertical or perpendicular to your mat. I hope that makes sense. If the loops aren't sitting correctly, the strands just won't sit flat against your chest. So let's go ahead and connect all of these. I'm going to start at this end. I'm going to open up this jump ring, and I'm going to connect the chain first, and now the strand, and now this focal bead, let me close up the jump ring. So now that we've connected this side, we're going to go ahead and connect the other side. Let me just check the loops on this strand. You want to make sure they're not all tangled up. As you can see, this loop is vertical, and that's how I'm going to connect it. Let me open up this jump ring. So now I'm going to connect it this way. And now the chain. And now this component, actually this one. and close it up. So far so good. I have another jump ring here. I'm going to use it to connect these two strands now. So let me open it up. Let me close it up now. So that's what you should have. So far so good. And I think I'm just going to connect these two ends to that component without using a jump ring. I'm simply going to open up the loop. Let me do this one first. And now this one. Let me check the loops to make sure the strands aren't all twisted up, and it looks okay. So now I'm going to close this loop. And this is basically how it's going to hang. Like I said, it's an asymmetrical design. I think it's very attractive, and it's definitely a long necklace. I believe it's going to be about 26 inches long, including the chain that we're going to add at the top and the clasp and jump rings. And I'm going to use the same kind of chain that I used at the bottom. I have two pieces of chain here. Each one measures about 6 inches. And the links on this chain are not soldered. So I'm going to open the ones at the end and connect them to the components at the top. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see, but this link has a cut. So I'm simply going to open it up and connect it to this component, just like that, and close it up. You do want to make sure that you close it really well. So now that's connected. Let me open up this one for the other side. And now I'll close it up. I am going to use jump rings for the clasp because these links are a little bit too thick and I don't think they'll fit through the loop of my lobster clasp. They might, but the link is a little bit flat, it's not round. So I'm going to use two 6mm jump rings. Let me go ahead and open this one up. And I'll connect it to this end. And now let me open up this one. And connect it to this end. I feel like I'm always spending a lot of time arranging these necklaces, especially the long ones. And I know you can't see the whole thing, but after we make the earrings, I'll try to lift my camera up and show you the entire necklace. So now let's go ahead and make a quick pair of earrings. Let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for the earrings. As you can see, I've already made one. I used one of the kiwi beads and a coffee bean bead. I used my 20 gauge wire on the kiwi bead, and I used a head pin for the coffee bean bead. And it's just a flat head pin. And I always use stainless steel ear wire hooks in case you're wondering. One time a viewer left a comment that I should try to match the metals, but the reason I don't do that is because a lot of people are allergic to base metals, and stainless steel is the safest way to go. Either that or some kind of precious metal, like gold, but it's very expensive. So anyway, I already mounted this one on 20 gauge wire, and these are just simple loops. Since I already showed you how to do that, I didn't think I'd have to show you again, but I will show you how to mount this one on the head pin. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm simply going to load it on the head pin like this. And it's the same thing, guys. I'm going to grab the pin right where the bead is, kink it, cut off the excess, leaving about 1/2 inch or so. Grab the end with my round nose pliers, making sure it's flush, and form a loop. And now I'm going to open it up, slide the component into it, close it, and now let me open up this loop, slide the ear wire hook into it, and close it. And here's a very simple but cute pair of earrings. Aren't they adorable? I love them. So now let me get the necklace and I'll arrange it on my board, and I'll see you in a few moments. Here's my asymmetrical coffee themed necklace with a pair of earrings to match. I love the colors. They're definitely very fall colors. And you know how I feel about dark metals. I love copper metals and copper tones. Let me see if I can slide my mat up so you can see the bottom. There's the bottom. Let me slide it back down so you can see the top. There's the top. I had to curl up the chain like that because it's super long. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I had a lot of fun working with these coffee bean beads. This necklace is definitely very unique and very different. As always, I'd like to go ahead and put it on for you and show you what it looks like. So let me do that and I'll see you in a few moments. Doesn't this necklace look different on the person than on the beading board? It really does. It's more dainty. Even though it's long, it's a dainty necklace. Well, at least that's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about it. I'd love to hear about it. If you could leave some comments down below, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.